Good morning, dear students. Welcome to Science Online class. Today we are going to start a new chapter in biology, and the name of the chapter is Respiratory System. Students, in your lower classes, you must have learned that respiration is a process of taking in of oxygen and leaving out of carbon dioxide. In this video, you are going to explore more about the process of respiration, the two types of respiration, and about the organs of respiration, and lastly about some of the respiratory diseases or disorders. Let's get started. Every living being requires energy for growth and development. Energy is not only required for doing our work, but also it is required for our growth and development of our body. And this energy is provided by the breakdown of food. And this breakdown takes place by a process called as respiration. So the process by which the food is broken down to release energy which is utilized by our body is called as respiration. So in this picture you could see glucose and oxygen react to form carbon dioxide, water, and energy is released in this process. And this process of breaking down of food to release energy happens in the mitochondria of the cell. So students, do you remember mitochondria is called the powerhouse of the cell? It is because it provides us the energy, or it provides the power or energy to carry on with the function of the cell as well as of the body. And depending on the part where the respiration takes place, respiration can be divided into two types. They are internal respiration and external respiration. So internal respiration takes place inside the cell and is also called as cellular respiration. So children, kindly note that internal respiration happens inside the cell. Okay, it is called cellular respiration. In this slide, it is typed mistakenly, children. So note that internal respiration is called cellular respiration and external respiration is called as breathing. First, let's learn about external respiration. External respiration means gas exchange across the respiratory membrane in the lung. So respiratory membrane means the alveoli. So the gas exchange that happens in the alveoli of the lung is called the external respiration. So what type of gas exchange happens here? Oxygen is taken inside the blood circulation, whereas carbon dioxide is dropped out in the alveoli. And the external respiration consists of two stages. First one is breathing and second is the gas exchange that happens in the alveoli of the lungs. The first stage involves breathing, which is intake of oxygen into the body through a nasal cavity and expulsion of carbon dioxide outside the body. So the process by which we take in oxygen or we breathe in oxygen is called as inhalation, and process by which we leave out or expel carbon dioxide is called as exhalation. So the process of breathing in of oxygen is called inhalation, and giving out of carbon dioxide or breathing out of carbon dioxide is called as exhalation. So when you look at this picture, during inhalation your chest expands and your rib bones. So rib bones are the one which protects our lungs and our heart. Our rib bone and chest expands and our diaphragm contracts, whereas while exhalation our chest contracts whereas our diaphragm relaxes. So diaphragm is nothing but a sheet of muscles which separate the chest cavity from the abdominal cavity. So when you have a closer look at the diaphragm, during inhalation you could see the diaphragm moving downwards because the ribs and chest cavity is actually expanding here. Whereas during exhalation, the diaphragm relaxes or the diaphragm moves upward to its original position and the chest contracts and the air is breathed out or expelled outside. The second stage involves the exchange of gases between the blood capillaries and the alveoli of the lung. So what happens here? So alveoli is nothing but air sacs which is present inside your lungs. And these air sacs or alveoli are surrounded by a fine mesh of thin walled capillaries. So it is surrounded by capillaries, and the oxygen of the air in the alveoli passes through the walls of the capillaries and combines with the hemoglobin in the blood of the capillary. Hemoglobin is nothing but a protein containing iron. So the oxygen combines with the hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. So thus the oxygen rich blood flows to the heart, from where it is pumped to all the cells of the body. And we also studied that during internal respiration, glucose combined with oxygen in the cells to produce energy, carbon dioxide and water. So the carbon dioxide which is produced, it combines with the hemoglobin in the blood to form carbaminohemoglobin. So thus the blood which is returning from the cell to the lungs is loaded with carbon dioxide. So this carbon dioxide passes from the blood to the air in the alveoli. So alveoli is nothing but thin walled round shaped cells within the lungs, and it increases the surface area for gas exchange. So the oxygen that is inhaled diffuses from the alveoli into the blood capillaries. Diffuses means they move from the alveoli into the blood capillaries, and the oxygen attaches with the hemoglobin in the blood to form oxyhemoglobin. And this oxygenated blood, that is blood rich in oxygen, is carried to the heart, from which it is pumped to different part of a body. And next, the byproduct of internal respiration, that is carbon dioxide from different cells in our body, combines with hemoglobin to form carbaminohemoglobin, which is carried to the lungs for gas exchange, and this carbon dioxide enters the alveoli and it is exhaled outside. Next, let's move on to internal respiration. Internal respiration occurs within the cells of the body, and it involves all the body cells, not just the cells of the lungs. So in this picture you could see internal respiration happening in the cell, and carbon dioxide is liberated out of the cell and oxygen is taken inside the cell. The process of internal respiration is also called as cellular respiration. It happens in the mitochondria of the cell. So the oxygen which is taken inside the cell is used to break down the glucose to release energy. So energy is released in the process of ATP. ATP means adenosine triphosphate. So it is also called cellular respiration as it occurs inside the cell. So as we have already learned, a number of chemical reaction happens inside the cell, and all that you will be learning in your higher classes. So water and carbon dioxide are produced as waste products of internal cellular respiration. Let's quickly go through the differences between internal and external respiration. External respiration occurs between the cells of the body, that is the alveoli cells present in the lungs, and the external environment, whereas internal respiration occurs within the cells. So that is why they are called as cellular respiration. Next, external respiration involves breathing, which is a physical process, whereas internal respiration does not require breathing. It is a biochemical process that happens inside the cell. Next, let's move on to the organs of the respiratory system. So the organs of the respiratory system, together they are called as respiratory tract. So we take in air through the nostrils, which leads to the nasal cavity. Nostrils are nothing but the opening of the nose, and the inner part of the nasal cavity is filled with hairs. So the hairs trap the dust and germs and prevent the germs and the dust from going deeper into the respiratory tract, and the mucus producing cells which is present in the nasal cavity makes the nose moist and provide humidity or moisture to the nose. The mucus also traps the dust and other microorganisms in the nasal cavity. Next, after passing through the nasal cavity, air enters the pharynx. Then it goes down into a long tube called as trachea, which is also called as windpipe, and trachea has got many rings on its surface, and between the pharynx and trachea lies a small air passage called as larynx. It is commonly known as the voice box because these tissue vibrate when we speak to produce the sound. And further, trachea is divided into two tubes or two branches called as bronchi, and each bronchi enters to the lungs and it divides and redivides to form fine or very small air passages called as bronchioles. So the lungs are the organs in the chest cavity that allow our body to take in oxygen from the air. So they also help us to remove carbon dioxide from the body. So the lungs lie on the either side of the breastbone and fill the inside of the chest cavity. So the left lung is usually slightly smaller than the right lung to allow space for the heart. So within the lungs, each bronchiole leads to a bunch of air sacs called as alveoli, and there are few millions of alveoli in each lung, and we have already learned about the gas exchange that happens inside the alveoli. Next, let's learn what happens in external respiration or breathing. So as we have already studied, external respiration consists of two phases, that is inspiration, that is inhalation, and expiration or exhalation. So inspiration means breathing in or inhaling. Expiration can be also written as breathing out or exhaling. So during inspiration or inhalation, what happens is the rib cage expands as the rib muscles contract. Okay, the rib muscles or the chest muscle contracts. As a result of it, the rib cage expands and the diaphragm moves down or contract. Whereas in exhalation, the rib cage gets smaller and the rib muscles also relax and diaphragm also relax. So when the diaphragm relax, it moves up to its original position. So diaphragm is a sheet of muscle that acts as a partition between the chest cavity and the abdominal cavity. Next, we'll quickly go through some of the respiratory diseases or disorders. Respiratory disorders are commonly caused by germs or due to a lot of pollutants in the air, or because of smoking, or because of weaknesses of the chest muscle. And the respiratory disorders which are caused by germs are common cold. The common cold you get is a common example of respiratory disease which it can be caused by either bacteria or virus. Bronchitis. Bronchitis is nothing but the infection of your bronchus. Infection and inflammation, that is swelling of the bronchus. Tuberculosis and pneumonia are infection of the lungs. They are all caused by microorganisms and they can spread from one person to another through contact. So you all know how these respiratory disorders spread, isn't it? When a person cough or sneeze, the germs from their body, it will spread in air and it may enter the body of a healthy person. And some other diseases like asthma. So you can see a granny here inhaling a puff. So asthma is not spread by any germs. They do not spread by contact. Asthma is usually caused by a reaction. It is a kind of allergic reaction to substances such as pollen or any fur or perfume or smoke or dust. And lung cancer is another dangerous disease that is not spread by contact. So always remember, smoking and pollution increases the risk of respiratory diseases. So people who are working as construction workers, they are exposed to a lot of dust. Miners, factory workers, policemen, traffic police especially, all these kind of people, they are exposed to more pollutants or dust on daily basis, so they are at a risk of developing respiratory diseases. Even hospital staffs working in hospital, they also develop respiratory diseases when they come in contact with people suffering from another disease caused by a germ. To summarize, in this lesson we studied about respiration, the two types of respiration, parts of respiratory system, and about the respiratory organs. Thank you students for watching this video till the end. Have a nice day.